We did the impossible. We did the impossible, but now it's going to get a lot harder because everything from now on is building the car and fixing it. We've got all the damaged parts off. Everyone thought that was hard, but it weren't.
On YouTube, rebuilding wrecked supercars has become a spectacle of ambition and engineering curiosity. Very few creators have built a reputation in that world like Matt Armstrong has. His channel grew by rescuing severely damaged performance cars that most mechanics would never attempt to fix. But every builder eventually meets a project that pushes the limits. For Matt, that moment arrived when he took on one of the most ambitious rebuilds ever attempted online. He dared to challenge a damaged Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of the most complex and expensive hypercars ever produced. What began as a bold challenge soon became a brutal lesson about the risks involved. Join us as we dive into an ambitious project that finally stumped him. Before attempting one of the most ambitious rebuild projects ever seen on YouTube, Matt Armstrong had already built a reputation as one of the platform's most recognizable automotive creators. His channel grew around a simple but compelling idea of taking cars that most people would consider beyond repair and bringing them back to life. Over time, that concept evolved into a series of increasingly complex projects, transforming him from a local mechanic with a passion for cars into a global online personality followed by millions of viewers. Long before his YouTube channel gained traction, Armstrong's connection to cars started with a deep personal interest in automotive mechanics. Like many enthusiasts, he developed his skills through hands-on work, learning how vehicles functioned by repairing, modifying, and rebuilding them himself. This practical experience would later become one of the defining aspects of his online content. Rather than presenting himself purely as a host or commentator, he positioned himself as someone who actually performed much of the work seen in his videos. His mechanical knowledge grew through years of working with vehicles, gradually building the skills required to tackle more complicated projects. The hands-on nature of that experience helped him gain confidence in diagnosing issues, sourcing parts, and understanding the structural and mechanical challenges that come with heavily damaged cars. These abilities would eventually become central to the type of content that made his channel successful.
What we're going to do, we're going to put this as well in a case, and then we're going to see if it is actually weldable, so we also have plan B.
He launched his YouTube channel during a period when automotive content on the platform was expanding rapidly. While car reviews and racing videos were already popular, the rebuild niche was beginning to gain attention. Viewers were fascinated by the idea of watching wrecked or salvaged vehicles slowly return to working condition. Matt's approach stood out because his videos documented the process in detail. Instead of presenting only the final result, he showed the entire journey, from purchasing damaged vehicles to dismantling components, repairing structural issues, and testing the finished car. This format allowed viewers to experience the uncertainty and problem-solving that came with each project. Over time, the channel developed a recognizable structure. Each major rebuild would begin with the purchase of a heavily damaged vehicle, often acquired from salvage auctions. The damage could range from collision impacts to mechanical failures, but the appeal was always the same. Viewers wanted to see whether the car could be saved. The popularity of his videos reflected a broader trend within automotive media. Salvage rebuild content combines several elements that naturally attract viewers: mechanical problem-solving, financial risk, and the satisfaction of seeing something broken restored to working condition. For audiences, there is also a strong element of suspense. When a severely damaged car arrives at a workshop, it is rarely clear whether the project will succeed. Hidden problems often emerge once the vehicle is disassembled, and unexpected complications can dramatically increase the difficulty of the repair. By documenting those moments openly, he allowed viewers to follow the same decision-making process that mechanics experience during real restoration work. This transparency helped establish trust with his audience. Instead of presenting flawless results, he frequently showed the setbacks and challenges involved in rebuilding vehicles. That honesty made the content feel authentic, and it encouraged viewers to invest emotionally in each project. As his channel grew, the scale of his projects began to increase. Early rebuilds typically involved performance cars that had suffered moderate damage. But over time, he moved toward vehicles that were far more complex and expensive. He was working his way up to high-performance sports cars that introduced new levels of difficulty. These vehicles often feature advanced electronics, specialized materials, and tightly engineered components. Repairs can require precise measurements, rare replacement parts, and extensive testing to ensure everything functions correctly. By taking on these challenges, he gradually built a reputation for tackling projects that many independent mechanics would hesitate to attempt. Each successful rebuild strengthened his credibility with viewers and helped expand his audience. Another factor behind the channel's growth was the storytelling aspect of each project. Rebuilds often unfolded over multiple episodes, allowing viewers to follow the progress step by step. This episodic structure created a sense of anticipation, as audiences returned to see whether the latest mechanical problem had been solved. As his subscriber base expanded, he became part of a larger network of automotive creators who were redefining how car enthusiasts consumed content online. Instead of relying solely on traditional automotive media, such as magazines or television programs, viewers increasingly turned to YouTube for detailed demonstrations, restoration projects, and mechanical education. His videos contributed to this shift by blending technical information with accessible storytelling. While the repairs themselves often involved complex mechanical work, the videos were structured in a way that made the process understandable to viewers with varying levels of automotive knowledge. Collaborations and interactions with other automotive creators also helped broaden his reach. The YouTube automotive community often overlaps, with creators appearing in each other's videos or sharing insights about challenging projects. These collaborations introduced his content to new audiences while strengthening his presence within the broader enthusiast community. In fact, one of the most consistent elements of his channel was the emphasis on documenting the full process of rebuilding cars. Rather than focusing solely on dramatic moments or final results, his videos frequently included detailed breakdowns of what went wrong, how parts were replaced, and what adjustments were required to make the vehicle operational again. For viewers, this level of detail made the content both educational and entertaining. Even people with little mechanical experience could follow the progress of a rebuild and gain a basic understanding of how modern vehicles are constructed. At the same time, more experienced car enthusiasts appreciated the authenticity of seeing real workshop challenges unfold on camera. The willingness to show mistakes and unexpected complications also reinforced the idea that automotive restoration is rarely straightforward. Cars purchased from salvage auctions often come with hidden damage, missing components, or electrical issues that only become visible once repairs begin. By showing these realities rather than hiding them, he positioned himself as a creator who was willing to share the full truth of the rebuilding process. As the channel continued to grow, he began selecting projects that carried greater financial and technical risk. Larger audiences naturally bring higher expectations, and viewers often look forward to increasingly ambitious builds. For automotive creators, this can create pressure to choose vehicles that are more expensive, more damaged, or more mechanically complex. This gradual escalation set the stage for one of the most ambitious decisions of his career. He now attempted to rebuild a damaged hypercar, widely known for its extraordinary engineering complexity and repair costs. The vehicle in question was the Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, a car that represents one of the most advanced production automobiles ever built. For most mechanics and independent workshops, even routine maintenance on such a vehicle is beyond reach. Yet the very difficulty of the challenge made it irresistible from a storytelling perspective. By the time he began exploring the possibility of rebuilding a Bugatti, his audience had already watched him overcome numerous mechanical obstacles. Each successful project reinforced the idea that even the most damaged cars could be restored with enough skill, patience, and determination. However, the hypercar would prove to be very different from anything he had attempted before. What started as a bold new chapter in his channel's evolution would soon reveal just how difficult it can be to rebuild one of the most sophisticated hypercars ever produced. The ultimate challenge. When the Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport was first introduced in 2020, it quickly became one of the most talked-about automobiles in the world. It was developed under the ownership of Bugatti Automobiles and backed by the engineering resources of the Volkswagen Group, and was designed to push the limits of what a production vehicle could achieve. The Chiron Pur Sport's headline feature was its 8.0-litre quad-turbocharged Bu-16 engine, an extremely rare configuration created by effectively combining two V8 engines into a single power unit. The result was a car capable of producing over 1,400 horsepower and reaching speeds that were once considered unattainable for road-legal vehicles. Beyond raw power, the Chiron Pur Sport incorporated a wide range of engineering innovations. Advanced aerodynamics, specialized cooling systems, and complex electronic controls were all required to manage the enormous performance of the vehicle. Every component, from the transmission to the tires, was developed specifically to handle the extreme forces generated by the car. Because of this complexity, even routine servicing for a Chiron Pur Sport is famously expensive. Certain maintenance procedures require specialized tools and trained technicians, often available only through authorized Bugatti service centers. These realities have made the Chiron one of the most costly cars in the world to maintain. For most owners, repairs on a Chiron are handled directly through Bugatti's official network. The manufacturer maintains strict standards for servicing its vehicles, partly because of the extreme performance involved, and partly because of the car's rarity. Independent garages rarely work on these cars, and even experienced mechanics may lack the diagnostic equipment required to fully service them. Many components are tightly integrated with proprietary electronics and software systems, making repairs particularly challenging without manufacturer support. This is what made Matt's decision so daring and unusual. While YouTube rebuild channels often feature high-performance cars, a Bugatti is rarely included in such projects. The potential costs alone can be staggering, and the risk of encountering highly specialized problems is significantly higher than with most vehicles. Yet those same factors also made the idea incredibly compelling for viewers. The concept of rebuilding a Bugatti outside of a factory environment seemed almost impossible, which naturally generated enormous curiosity within the automotive community. When he first revealed the project, the announcement quickly attracted widespread attention from both fans and automotive enthusiasts. The car he had acquired was not a pristine hypercar. It had already suffered significant damage. Like many vehicles featured on rebuild channels, the Bugatti had been obtained after being involved in an accident. The exact extent of the damage became clearer as the vehicle was inspected and disassembled. Structural components, body panels, and various mechanical systems required evaluation to determine what could be repaired and what would need replacement. Salvage vehicles often contain hidden issues that are not immediately visible. Damage to wiring, electronics, suspension components, or internal engine parts can remain concealed until the rebuild process begins. For a car as complex as the Chiron Pur Sport, the possibility of discovering additional problems added a major layer of uncertainty to the project. Despite these risks, he approached the challenge with cautious optimism. His previous rebuilds had demonstrated that even severely damaged vehicles could be restored with careful planning and persistence. At the beginning of the project, the focus was on assessing the condition of the Bugatti and determining which components could realistically be repaired. This process involved dismantling sections of the car to inspect the frame, suspension, and drivetrain. The rebuild strategy centered on sourcing replacement parts where necessary and restoring existing components whenever possible. However, finding parts for a Chiron is not as straightforward as ordering components for more common vehicles. Many parts are produced in limited quantities and are not widely available through typical aftermarket suppliers. This meant that locating and acquiring the correct components could take significant time and financial investment. In some cases, the cost of individual parts alone can reach tens of thousands of dollars. Progress on a vehicle like this doesn't often follow a straight path. Even small problems can trigger a chain reaction of additional repairs, particularly when dealing with advanced electronics and high-performance mechanical systems. Automotive enthusiasts, mechanics, and industry observers began following the progress closely. The idea of a Bugatti being rebuilt in a YouTube workshop was unusual enough to attract widespread discussion. For many viewers, the project offered a rare opportunity to see the internal components of a Chiron up close. These cars are normally hidden behind exclusive dealerships and private collections, rarely exposed to the kind of hands-on mechanical work shown in Armstrong's videos. At the same time, the scale of the project raised serious questions about how feasible the rebuild truly was. The Chiron Pur Sport's complexity meant that even small setbacks could dramatically increase both the cost and the time required to complete the project. Still, the challenge itself was part of the appeal. The possibility that the Bugatti might actually be restored kept audiences watching closely, eager to see whether he could succeed where few independent builders had ever ventured before. The real hurdle to the project. The Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport has only 60 units ever produced and a price tag exceeding $3.6 million when new. The Pur Sport represents one of the most specialized variants in the Chiron lineup produced by Bugatti automobiles. The particular car in question had reportedly been involved in a collision in Miami with a small K truck, leaving significant damage to the front end. When Armstrong reviewed the case and the associated repair estimates, the scale of the costs immediately stood out. The Chiron's construction relies heavily on advanced materials and custom components, many of which are produced in extremely limited quantities. As a result, replacement parts alone can reach extraordinary prices. Among the figures that circulated during the discussion were eye-catching examples like a single headlight assembly, reportedly priced at around $125,000, and carbon fiber front fenders costing well over $170,000 each. For even experienced car builders accustomed to working on high-value supercars, these numbers show how dramatically repair costs escalate when dealing with ultra-limited hypercars. Further estimates reportedly included approximately $174,000 for a pair of headlights, $93,000 for the grille surround, and roughly $58,000 for a section of the hood. Matt himself joked that the cost of the headlights alone could rival the price of a used Lamborghini Huracan. However, the financial shock did not end with the parts list. The most serious concern involved the vehicle's carbon fiber monocoque chassis. If this structural component is compromised, repairs become significantly more complex and, in many cases, economically impractical. In hypercars built around carbon fiber structures, the chassis forms the core of the entire vehicle, and damage to it can effectively render the car beyond traditional repair. Another complication stems from the way Bugatti manages servicing and repairs for its vehicles. The company typically requires that major restoration work be performed through its authorized network, where technicians have access to proprietary tools, training, and diagnostic systems. This policy reflects the extreme engineering tolerances of the vehicles, but it also means that independent builders may face restrictions when attempting to obtain certain replacement parts. When Bugatti initially assessed the situation, the company reportedly quoted roughly $1.7 million to repair the car through its official channels. When the owner declined the factory repair route, the situation became even more complicated. Bugatti initially refused to sell official replacement parts or provide technical support for the independent rebuild. By blacklisting the vehicle's VIN from its supply network, the company effectively blocked standard access to the components required to restore the car. At the center of the controversy was the safety concern. Mate Rimac publicly addressed the situation, explaining that hypercars like the Chiron are engineered with extremely precise tolerances and safety structures. He specifically pointed to the car's shattered gearbox housing and the damage to its carbon fiber monocoque structure. These are components that play a critical role in maintaining the car's integrity during operation. According to Mate, improper repairs on such systems could create serious safety risks. Chiron's engineering relies on carefully designed failure points that distribute impact forces in specific ways during a crash. If these elements are repaired incorrectly, the vehicle could behave unpredictably under stress. Despite those concerns, the story did not end with the blacklist. As the rebuild attracted widespread attention online, the conversation between Armstrong's team and Bugatti evolved. Rather than completely shutting down the project, Mate later signaled that the company was willing to support the effort in certain ways. Bugatti eventually lifted the strict parts blacklist and even reduced its earlier repair estimates, opening the door for the rebuild to continue. Even with limited factory cooperation, Matt and his team had already begun finding creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. One example involved the Chiron's gearbox mount, a component intentionally designed to break during a crash in order to redirect forces through the vehicle's structure and minimize wider damage. The downside of that engineering approach is that even relatively minor impacts can destroy the part. Replacing it through official channels would have been extremely expensive, so the team turned to a specialist TIG welder to repair the broken mount. Eventually, one of the most anticipated milestones arrived when the front and rear sections of the Chiron were finally reunited and bolted together. Shortly afterwards, he and his team managed to start the car's engine, a moment that marked a breakthrough in the rebuild process. He has expressed confidence that the vehicle could soon be driven, suggesting that the project may be approaching its final phase, but it is yet to be seen if he can get it on the road safely or if the Chiron still has a few more surprises for him. What do you think Matt's chances are at pushing out a roadworthy rebuild of the Chiron? Tell us in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.